Okay, so I was reached out to by a company named IQUNIX a few weeks ago to check out their ZX1 ITX case, which is this gorgeous aluminum case that I am really excited about and will have a build out for it in the next few weeks. But they also asked if I wanted to check out some of their keyboards. And I'm not gonna lie, I've since fallen down a bit of a custom keyboard rabbit hole. Now, IQUNIX sent me a few of their keyboards to try out, but this video is not sponsored by them. They have no input on what I say in this video, and they haven't seen it ahead of time either. This video is sponsored, however, by Squarespace, but we'll talk about them more later on in the video. This keyboard is called the Super 1+1 TKL. TKL meaning 10 keyless, or without a number pad. I typically prefer 75% keyboards, which are compact keyboards that include the arrow and function keys. A lot of those keyboards have a shortened shift key, which I don't really like. What's pretty interesting here is that this little side section contains your arrow keys along with 9 keys above it, so that you kind of get the best of both worlds. If you are someone who needs a number pad though, there are layout options available for you, along with a few other mix and matched variations. One of the first things that come to mind when I see this marketing though is the idea of a modular design. Unfortunately, this is not modular, but I think they should look at that as an idea for the future. This keyboard is solidly built and feels super sturdy. The aluminum casing is CNC machined, which gives it a nice weighty feel. Overall, it just feels really well made. Now, I wasn't sure initially how I felt about the high contrast red, white, and blue color combo they have here with the primary color scheme, but I honestly like it quite a bit, especially after seeing it in person. The colors are slightly more muted than the marketing images would lead you to believe. Still, if that's not your thing, there are other color options available as well. The base of the board has a mirror finish with a 1+1 etched into it, which is a nice touch. It also lifts the board off the table, making it a little bit easier to pick up and reposition when you need to. Under the base, there's two 2000 milliamp batteries that kind of just rest here, and that's some pretty massive battery life for a keyboard. You're not likely to need to recharge this often. So let's detach those and then put them aside. Now, let's remove the gray bottom piece, and this is where you can truly feel the quality of this case's machining. All of these aluminum pieces are just well machined and feel high quality. Right inside here, there's a few pieces of foam. So we have some case foam and a piece of socket foam. This should help the overall acoustics and typing sound. The default plate that comes with the keyboard is FR4. If you want to change up the sound and feel, you can pay extra to get an aluminum or palm plate. In short, palm is the softest of the three. The FR4 is stiffer with a little bounce and is created with the same material as the PCB. Aluminum is the stiffest of the three, but can be more vibrational. So I think FR4 is perfectly fine for most people, and you'll hear it in the sound test later on. These pieces on the side here are the gasket mounts, which is basically how the keyboard fits together. Different mount types can change how your keyboard feels and performs. Now, these gasket mounts typically give a softer typing experience compared to other mount types like top mounts and tray mounts. Between the plate and the PCB is a piece of plate foam and a switch pad. This also improves the board's sound, so I'm happy to see it here. There's always the opportunity to do some different mods to potentially improve the sound, but today I'm going to keep everything stock so that you can get a good idea of what it sounds like out of the box. Now, under the spacebar dampeners, you can also find the antennas for the wireless connection. A metal case can interfere with the wireless signal, so positioning it under the spacebar is supposed to help create a more reliable signal, which is pretty clever. The PCB has south-facing RGB lighting, which I think looks great. You can cycle through different modes with a few of the default shortcuts, but there's also some IQUNIX software that allows you to remap keys, set up per key RGB lighting, along with other presets and macro recording. Now, I think my favorite aspect of this though is that you can also remap special multifunction keys, like your multiple Bluetooth profiles. As someone who uses multiple devices and computers daily, I really love this feature to quickly be able to swap between up to 3 Bluetooth devices and a 2.4 wireless dongle. There's a default shortcut for this, but in the software, you can actually map it to a single key so that it's faster to switch. But before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace. Building a new website can take a lot of time and work, but with Squarespace's flexible templates, creating a new website is super simple. You can select a template from the hundreds available and then customize it as much as you need to make it your own. You can enhance your website by adding an online store. The analytics section will then enable you to track orders and website traffic. Additionally, you can create an email campaign for things like newsletters to send out to all your subscribers. Even if you just want to create an online portfolio, Squarespace is the platform for it. When you're ready to build your new site, head over to squarespace.com/DevinJohnston to start your free trial today. Squarespace is also offering my subscribers 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Just enter the code DevinJohnston at checkout to save. This board is also what's called hot swappable. So if you're wanting to experiment with a different switch, It's fairly easy to do that. They include this very nice metal keycap and switch puller in the box for this exact reason. Now, generally speaking, if you like a clicky sound, you can pick up some clicky switches. Tactile switches have a small bump, and linear switches, which are my personal favorite, are smooth throughout the entire actuation. This is an oversimplification, of course, because there are so many variations of switches, different weights, etc. But to start, if you're not sure what you like, I would start with linear as it's the most popular, or you can try to go to your local Best Buy or something and try out a few keyboards to kind of figure out what you like. And that's what makes this board being hot swappable so useful. If you don't like the feel of the switch included or another one that you might have bought, you can simply remove them and replace with something different without the need to solder or buy a whole new keyboard. But I would recommend installing new switches with the PCB out of the case so that you can support it from the back and not damage the board. Now, mine came with the IQUNIX Moonstone switches. These are factory lubed linear switches, and I think they sound really good. They have a nice thocky sound to them, with their actuation feeling a little lighter than something like the Marandi switches. These ones have a bottom out force of around 47 grams. The most popular force is between 50 and 70, and the Mirandas sit right in the middle at 60. So they're a switch that will likely appeal to most people. I've also been using the Speed Silvers and have liked them a lot as well. There are really just a ton of good options out there, especially for linears. Now, if you do decide to get some different switches, I would also check to see if they are factory lubed. That way you don't have to spend hours taking apart each switch and hand lubing them. I mean, you can do that if you're hardcore like that, but if you want to save yourself some time, factory lube switches are probably the way to go. Now, one of the downsides here is that it takes a lot of steps to get inside the keyboards. So it's not the most convenient if you're someone who likes to change things often. These keycaps are double shot PBT and have a very smooth with a light coarse texture. They also have a very clean and sharp looking font. The blue and red colored keycaps match the casing perfectly. And these will be included if you purchase the keyboard within the first 7 days of the group buy, but unfortunately after that, you'll have to buy them separately. The mode switch on the back toggles between wired and wireless mode, and they also include a really nice aviator cable with metal connectors, which I think that's a good touch too. But I've also noticed that the toggle is pretty tough to move, so hopefully that's something that will be resolved in the final version. But I am definitely satisfied with the acoustics and the overall typing feel of this keyboard. I believe the group buy should be starting the day that this video is posted. Now, for a group buy, that basically means that you have to buy the board now and you won't get it till production, which should be in November. But if you're impatient and need something now, there are options for you. Companies like Keychron and even IQUNIX have pre-built keyboards that really aren't that bad and they're ready to ship. Up until I received this 1+1 keyboard, I've been using the ZX75 and have really been enjoying it. So yeah, look, I'm pretty new to the world of custom keyboards, but what a difference a high quality custom keyboard can make. It really is night and day compared to most off-the-shelf keyboards. Not that there's anything wrong with those at all, and I know that companies like Razer and Asus and others are really starting to step it up in this area. So I'm excited to eventually get around to trying those, see how they compare. It also looks like IQUNIX has some really interesting keyboards coming up, so I do hope to check those out in the future. But let me know your thoughts. Do you want to see me cover more custom keyboards in the future? A huge thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.